when we talk about value, we can't be overly concerned with the condition of said item, right? Where it came from, where it's been, how it looks, what it doesn't look like. The value is on the inside. The value is determined within that particular item. Regardless of where we started, what we've been through, where we are right now, where we may not be where we want to be, it does not make us invaluable. We should never allow someone else's opinion to cause us to diminish our value, right? It doesn't matter what they say about me. It doesn't matter how they view me. It doesn't matter if you're being overlooked. Your value is internal. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the new episode of the Myles podcast. This is Myles Jr., your host. And as always, the vision for this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right? So for this part, I wanted to have a conversation about value. I remember seeing this illustration several years back, right? And they were using a dollar bill, right? And just imagine I have a dollar bill and I'm holding it up to you, and I'm folding this dollar bill into a very small piece of paper, right? I take that dollar bill, I put it on the ground, I stamp on that dollar bill. I take that dollar bill and I roll it around on the ground. It gets super dirty. I take that dollar bill and I crush it as hard and as small as I could. I take this dollar bill and I beat it on the ground. I toss it on the ground, toss it against a wall, doing as much damage to this dollar bill as I possibly could. And then I ask you, I pull the dollar bill up. I pull the dollar bill up. I lift the dollar bill up. I unfold it, right? And with all the wrinkles and the dirt and the stuff on it, I ask you, how much is this dollar bill worth? And your answer is going to be, someone in the room,
$1.
It's going to be worth $1. And I saw that illustration, and it reminded me, because it wasn't the first time I heard this principle or learned this principle, but it reminded me of how important value is, right? And when we talk about value, we can't be overly concerned with the condition of said item, right? Where it came from, where it's been, how it looks, what it doesn't look like. The value is on the inside. The value is determined within that particular item. So just like that dollar bill, we must look at ourselves the same way, right? Regardless of where we started, what we've been through, where we are right now, where we may not be where we want to be, it does not make us invaluable. What people say about us, what people say towards us, what people don't say, if we're not getting any recognition, it doesn't determine our value. We should never allow someone else's opinion to cause us to diminish our value, right? It doesn't matter what they say about me. It doesn't matter how they view me. It doesn't matter if you're being overlooked. Your value is internal. And I just remember my dad always teaching me this principle of value, right? He taught me two principles about value. The first was the difference in value that we as individuals have for things, right? So he and I were discussing one day selling a piece of property that we had, and we discussed price that we wanted to sell it for. My price was much higher than his, me being ambitious. And it just was no never mind to him. It was like, okay, cool, you could list it for whatever you want, basically. And I was like, you don't want to agree on a price? And he was like, well, the price that we put on the property really isn't going to make that much of a difference, because the value of that property is going to be what someone else is willing to pay for it, right? And like I remember hearing that for the first time and not understanding it, I'll be honest, at first, and just being a bit confused as to, if someone, if the value of the property that I have is worth what someone else wants to pay for, then if they're not willing to pay my price, then I'm not going to sell it, right? That was my mindset behind it. But then when I dug a little deeper, like he and I kind of talked about it some more, I really started to understand the principle behind it, right? It really had nothing to do with the property itself or the price of the property or even what someone was willing to pay for the property, right? It was a principle behind this, right? Because the value that we have on something is our value, right? What we determine, like we want to value this item at. But the true worth, right? The true value of the item, or I should say the value worth of exchange for the item is based on what someone is willing to pay for it. And I guess Sharice could attest to this, especially with social media and any person that has ever started a business or sold a product or anything, right? A lot of the times we produce things, right? We make things available to the public that we've either created or came up with in our minds as an idea and brought to the masses, whether it's a product or service, whatever that is. Sharice with social media, she and I have this conversation all the time. But let me get to the point first, and I'll get to Sharice. So, sometimes the product that we envision or the service that we envision that we want to sell isn't the product that the consumers want. And I tell people, as much as as much time as I get to, I try to tell people, like, man, sometimes you just have to put stuff out there and see what sticks, right? Because a lot of the times the things that we are like working hard at, right, putting a lot of effort behind to make perfect, at least what we deem as perfect for like the public or the consumers or whoever we want to interact with what it is that we're providing or what we're serving. If they don't like that product, they're not going to buy that product, or they're not going to make use of that product. Sharice has, she's been being an influencer for, quite some time. And, she has done travel vlogs. She's done
it all.
Hair vlogs. She's done like all of these content, right? She's created all of this content. And sometimes the content that she creates, the ones that get all of the views, she is like, man, like, I don't even, like, why is this getting as much views as it's getting? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me, right? Because the value that I'm putting on what I'm doing here isn't, in my eyes, higher than, this other content that I'm creating that I wish people would gravitate more towards. And I always tell her, like, you can't determine what your audience likes, right? You have to listen to your audience, see what they're gravitating towards, and then make more of that or do more of that. And that's kind of like what we should look at value. Now, I'm not saying that you should allow others to determine the value of things, but what I'm saying is the valuation of like services, right? Because there's a difference between the value that we have in ourselves, that we place on ourselves, or that we should, what we should value ourselves, versus what we value, something that we're providing, whether it's a product or service. So the value that we place on ourselves is based on the work that we put in, right? The development that we have, the education that we have, the wisdom that we have, how we are able to apply that information. And then what my dad taught me was, man, the value that we place on stuff, right? On items, on services, on products, essentially is determined by the consumer. And, that was an important principle for me because, I used to think that, man, if I create a product or service and I make it available to the public, Like I'm going to set a price and be firm in that price. And if you don't want to pay for my product or service, then you just don't buy it. But in the long run, like we hurt ourselves as businessmen. Now you don't want to undervalue your service or product, but at the same time, you have to pay attention to the public, pay attention to consumers, and same way like I was telling Sharice, like you have to listen to what your audience is asking for. So whether that's more of the content that you, not that you don't like to create, but the content that I guess isn't as fun for you to create or whatnot. Like that's, I think your audience tells you what they like, right?
Yeah, I agree in that instance, but I needed to backtrack. Sometimes when you set your prices and then you have people who don't agree with your prices, you have to stand firm to say this is my price because my price is my price and I put that value into it. And that just shows you that maybe your target market is incorrect for what you're selling, because maybe you can't afford or you don't see the value in my product, but someone else does. So I think don't think that your price is, you have to change your price based on the fact that some people won't agree with it. You just have to find the right market for you, because someone is going to pay you what you are charging.
Mm-hmm. I think this segues into my next point, right? This next principle that my dad taught me about value, right? And it's, he always says that if you want to be successful, don't chase success. Mm-hmm. Become a person of value. So you have to become valuable, right? You have to show value. So, just speaking with setting prices, right? So I think you're able to be firm on your pricing when you've already established yourself, right? Establish whether it's a brand, establish your name, establish your business, your product, your service. Like you've been around, you've been tested, you've, been accepted by the customer base, and you could be pretty firm. But if you're new, right, you're new to the market, you're new to whatever industry it is that you're in, I think you have to become valuable, right? So you have to show your value. So sometimes you have to start off by maybe giving stuff away for free or giving stuff away at a super discount. And that's what I'm talking about more so than anything else, right? Because once you're established, you have a lot of leeway to say, man, I'm not going to lessen my value because someone says that they can't afford me, right? I think it's important that we stand firm and remain to the level of value that we see ourselves, or the level of value that we want to attract. But at the same time, like if you're starting out and you're new, to whatever industry or platform that you're on, you're going to have to show your value, right? Or you're going to have to prove the value that you're bringing to the table. And I think a lot of times people try to, off the bat, they try to be firm on pricing, like especially this younger generation, right? Where we want, almost instant gratification. Like every idea that we come up with, we think is the best idea. Everything that we put our hands to, we feel that it should work. So a lot of times that gets us into this cycle of starting things and not finishing because things aren't working out the way that we want them to. But like I say, you have to show or create the value for yourself or your service or the product that you're bringing to the table, and that takes time. And that takes you doing it for free, doing it at a discount, maybe undervaluing yourself for a period of time so that you can build up the customer base, the clientele, and whatnot. You agree?
Yeah, I agree.
So no pushback. Mm-mm. That's the first. Don't roll the eye. So, again, it's we're talking about, at least I wanted to discuss like internal value, and then the internal values that we place on ourselves, and the external values that we place on the things around us or the things that we may be creating, right? Our value, I feel like it should be something that we are continually working on, right? Like I'm just big on continual growth, right? Continual learning, never not learning, never not gaining new information, never not learning new ways to do things. that increases value, right? Because as industry changes, as the economy changes, there are going to be things that pop up that, that reflects a skill that we have that we can take advantage of, right? That we can put to work, and create a new stream of income, new stream of revenue, a new stream of customers to our brand or ourselves. However that looks, and I think that comes because we're continually developing ourselves. And then there's the value that we place on the things that we're doing. And again, we have to create or show and prove the value that we're bringing, the value that this product has. And sometimes it's a long journey, right? It's a long journey to get to the point where we can call our own shots, right? We can name our own pricing and we can be firm on that. But that doesn't mean that you aren't valuable, right? At the end of the day, we're all valuable, right? We all contain a high level of value within us, but we have to develop that, right? We have to show and prove that, right? It's not something that is just there that, we pop up one day and, hello, I'm valuable, right? It doesn't work like that, right? It takes work for us to gain our worth. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight, right? We have to be patient with it. So when I say know your value, I'm talking about know who you are, what you're worth, and then the things that you're doing, know the value that you're bringing to where you're including those things, right? Whether you have a skill or talent or you're creative, what you're doing is valuable, right? But you have to find where that value is best served. And if as you work towards creating that value for yourself, just continue to be positive, man. Continue to not let others discourage you, not let others, their view of you, their opinions of you, their opinions of what it is that you're doing, to cause you to second guess yourself. But we all go through it, right? I've had enough conversations with my wife about, man, does this make sense? Like, am I making sense? Like, does this something that I want to continue, right? And she's had conversations with me on the same light, right? With the things that she does from a creative content standpoint. So once we realize our internal value, I feel like we're going to be able to, extend that externally, right? In the things that we're doing, the people that we're doing it for or doing it to. We're going to be able to really understand the true value that we bring, the true value that we are, the true value that we possess.
And you have to be okay with people not seeing your value.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone isn't going to love what you do. And I think I learned it from a young age, right? So it's, I know that one of my pods that I did was where I said, we're not for everyone. And in the same way, like things that we do, like everyone isn't going to see the value in it. They're not going to find it valuable for them. So like Cherie says, you have to find your audience. You have to find your crowd. And,
find your people.
Find the people that respect and value what it is that you do, what it is that you bring to the world, what it is that you bring to their lives. All right. So know your value, man. Let's not diminish ourselves. Let's not devalue ourselves.
My question would be like, what will be the metrics to determine your self-value? Because it depends on what you do. Like, how do you determine yourself, like the value of yourself? Do you look externally to other persons, or how does that work?
Nah, our value comes from, first of all, like our abilities. Like what are we good at? Like what are the things that I'm capable of doing that stands out from others, right? So it's not that I'm going to be like, if you're a singer or you play video games, right? I'm the best gamer. Like, you're not going to be the best gamer all the time, right? But the way that you create and continue to create value for yourself is through practice, right? Through being committed to what it is that you're doing, perfecting your craft, continuing to work at it. And then as you display that gift, someone is going to find the value in it, in what it is that you do. Now, it may not be where you want it, right? So, because you may see yourself as being, one of the biggest gamers in the world, right? But someone may see your value in being able to teach gaming, right? Or being able to mentor kids. Like there's a lot of ways that we can become valuable in different areas of life. And this speaks to the part where I say sometimes you have to let your audience determine where your value, where you are most valuable, right? Because we have this mindset of we have this vision sometimes of like where we want our journey to go and where we succeed, how we see our success going. And a lot of the times our success is like completely different than what we see, right? We could still get to the end point, but how we get there is normally different. And usually it's those who aren't able to adjust and, kind of veer off what they think the vision of success should be are the ones who aren't super successful because they don't adapt to what it is that the audience is asking for, right? Because once if you adjust and adapt to what the audience wants and you gain success in that lane, a lot of times you'll be able to pivot and actually do what it is that you want to do, right? Because you've been able to create so much value in one aspect, you've gained the notoriety and the acceptance, or you've been able to build your brand to the point where, okay, man, I could venture off and do what it is that I want. But it starts with like knowing you, like knowing what you're good at, knowing who you are, knowing the value that you have within, right? And determining that, man, I'm going to be as open to displaying and increasing my value as I can. I don't want to limit myself. I don't want to put myself in a box. I'm going to let this platform, this audience, like really determine what the possibilities of my value could be.
I want to chime in.
Mm-hmm.
So in the world we live in today, people are always talking about what your metrics are. And I think this has kind of scared people into not believing or not understanding what their true value is in a sense. I have a story. A lot of companies hit me up. Either they want me to review things for free or they want to do an exchange where I would review something and they would give me entrance into things or, the ability to enjoy whatever it is I'm promoting.
Mm-hmm.
And a particular company hit me up and I kind of it was a big company who was capable of paying if they wanted to.
Paying you for the
paying
promotion.
me for promoting
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is they wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a slap in the face because the way you are perceiving me isn't the way that I perceive myself.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was someone who did not know my value, I would have taken on the project because it's a big company. And I want to be seen as someone who is aligned with this brand. But no, you hit me up because you know my value.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know my value, you should be able to pay me whatever I ask you to pay me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this world that we live in today, I think it's super important to know that whatever you think your value is, that's what your value is. And someone will pay for it because even when you look at larger influencers who have like 100,000 followers versus say an influencer who has $50,000, many times followers, many times an influencer with $50,000 can demand followers can demand more money than someone with $100,000 because they know followers because they know their value. It coming, I feel it. It coming. So you just have like smaller influencers. They are able to demand that money because they're not budging. This is what I bring to the table. This is how long I've been doing this. I don't care if you have someone who has 100,000 followers.
There you go. This
is what I'm charging. And many times you just have to step out on a ledge and say, this is what I want.
Yeah. And, I think that brings up a good point too, right? Because I said, sometimes you have to discount your value or discount what it is that you think you're worth just so that you can gain traction and, gain a foot in whatever industry that is. But sometimes like you don't have to do that, right? Mm-hmm. But just know that if you take the route of, man, I'm not going to diminish my value, then it may take a little longer, right? You're going to have to be a lot more patient, right? Because you're going to have to wait for your tribe, wait for that audience that is going to value the way that you value yourself.
Yeah, and we also see it causes a lot of, I guess, problems in any type of industry now, because when you have people doing so much of the same thing, a lot of people are undervaluing their goods, their services, and it makes it hard for people who actually are giving a good product across all industries, you know, construction, media. You know, you see people doing things that you would charge full price. They're charging, you know, $50. I give you that for $25. You don't know your value.
You get what you pay for, though.
You also get what you pay for. So just know your value and trust that you know what you're doing, and you can demand whatever you ask for.
No, absolutely. Anyone else want to chime in? No, man. I again, Sharice and I have these type of conversations all the time. You know, there's always a company that hits her up and wants her to promote, you know, a product or promote something, and you know they will give her pennies on the dollar, and it's like, come on, bro.
Listen,
you hit me.
I've been in the game from before it was a game. Like, don't play me like that. I could buy my own shampoo.
Oh man, but know your value, right? I think that's the principle that I want to get across. You know, don't chase success. You know, just become a person of value, and success is going to follow in every aspect of your life. All right. Brings us to the segment of the pod where I want to leave with you a milestone. Today's milestone is a quote by M. Scott Peck, right? And it says, "Until you value yourself, you won't value your time. And until you value your time, you will not do anything with it." I think this shows the importance of creating value, right? Understanding our value, knowing our value. Because once we value ourselves, like, we're not going to waste time with things that aren't valuable to us. And in turn, right, we're going to put a lot of our energy into the things that bring value to our lives. All right. So let's know our value, right? Let's start to value ourselves at the level, at the worth that we know we are, that we know we should be. All right. Brings us to the end of this pod. Hopefully this was an informative one. Hopefully you learned something, right? Because, you know, as always, my vision and my goal is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. Until next time, you guys stay blessed.